Back. That was Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif addressing Chinese President Xi Jinping this week. Here with me to discuss this is Andrew Small, author of the book The China-Pakistan Axis, Asia's New Geopolitics. From Beijing is Jia Xiaodong, a senior international affairs researcher at the China Institute of International Studies. And from Islamabad is Musharraf Zaidi, a leading Pakistani columnist and government advisor. Welcome to all of you again. Andrew, when we look at the security or strategic implications of this relationship, Musharraf addressed that earlier on. Would it be a bit of an oversimplification to see Beijing's policies as just a counter to the growing US-India alliance?
I think really the China-Pakistan relationship now develops pretty much on a parallel track from any of that. Of course, for the Chinese military and for the Pakistani military, India has still been a strategic concern for some time. It continues to be, and in some ways this concern about how the US-India relationship is developing has meant that some of that old rationale for the relationship has come back somewhat in the eyes of the Chinese military to an extent, but I would say nowadays the security relationship is much broader than that. It's also not just focused on the South Asian side. It's also increasingly concerned with the relationship with Afghanistan and some of the issues there that China's navigating. Pakistan has long been a partner for China in dealing with issues around Islamic militancy, but also looking really beyond that. Pakistan, as China's closest military partner, will also help to facilitate China's takeoff as a global military power as well. The use of Pakistani naval facilities, for instance, has been something that the PLA Navy have been looking towards already and even more so in future. So I think on the security and intelligence side, this is something that's going to look out well beyond South Asia and India in the years to come, and towards some of the China's role in the Middle East, East Africa, other elements of China's role in the Indian Ocean and beyond.
Right. Jia Xiaodong, let's look at that relationship, the other side of that relationship between China and Pakistan, and that is the security intelligence relationship. How worried is China about the threat of militant Islam from Pakistan, and what kind of leverage really does Beijing have to help China counter this threat, to help Pakistan counter the threat?
China has very close cooperation with Pakistan on security issues, including counterterrorism. You know, China-Pakistani relationship is driven on two wheels. On the one hand, it's economic trade cooperation. On the other hand, it's security. So security is one of the top priorities of China's policy in the region and towards Pakistan. And of course, China has concerns over the threat, menace of terrorism of the East Turkestan independent forces. Some of those forces joined the battle in Afghanistan, and some of them may move across the border. And even those forces, travel to the Middle East to join the fight with the ISIS. So it's a genuine concern. But China and Pakistan have very close cooperation in this field. We have mechanisms, dialogue, consultation, and also intelligence sharing, information sharing. So China views Pakistan as a very close friend in this. And China supports Pakistan's policy to fight against terrorism through the policy which is suitable to Pakistan's national conditions. Also, people here in China understand how tough it is for Pakistan to fight against the terrorism, given the various challenges in the region across the border with Afghanistan and areas, unreachable mountainous areas. But anyway, the cooperation has been very close between China and Pakistan.
Musharraf, when we look at one of the projects that these two countries will be working on, creation of an overland route to the Pakistani Indian Ocean port of Gwadar, development of that port, it will go through a part of Pakistan that's very restive, that's Balochistan. How does Pakistan and China meet that challenge, building this route getting it off the ground, at the same time facing a threat from terrorism?
I think that, Pakistan's been trying to deal with this problem in Balochistan for some time. Again, as I said earlier, many of the challenges Pakistan faces are challenges of its own making, and therefore they're challenges that Pakistan's going to have to resolve itself. But I think if we look at this, if we zoom out a little bit and look at this from a longer-term perspective, I think both China and Pakistan have begun this voyage of building the China-Pakistan economic corridor in one way to address the sort of misgivings and the dissatisfaction in Balochistan on the Pakistani side and in parts of China that haven't benefited as much from the remarkable and miraculous economic growth that China's enjoyed. That this corridor in and of itself is an instrument of addressing the restiveness of these places, the vulnerability of these places to sort of militants and to people who think that violence against the state and violence against innocent people is a legitimate response to economic inequality or a feeling of being left out politically. So I think that, yes, in order to build it, Pakistan will have to do many things to assuage those people that are upset. But the longer-term solution to the misgivings and the discontent will be the opening up of these areas to the vast economic opportunities that are going to flow from the route itself.
Great point. What's your take on that, Andrew? The fact that this development is going to go through a rest of reason is just the thing that it needs, economic development to defuse tensions there.
I mean, I certainly think the China-Pakistan economic corridor is partly conceived as part of the broad stabilization effort that China's making around its western periphery. Of course, the presence of some of these economic routes, as you can see in Xinjiang, is no guarantee that this is going to translate into a completely secure environment. But I think it is certainly an initiative that China is willing to press ahead with, where in the past, I think some of the security concerns that China had in Pakistan acted as an inhibiting factor when it came to these investments. And certainly Chinese workers have been killed, kidnapped, and these challenges will not go away. The Pakistanis are putting forward a special security force to protect a lot of these projects. But I think now, particularly given the problems that the region has faced and some of China's concerns about how the spillover implications might play out in Xinjiang itself, I think China's now willing to press ahead with a number of these economic projects precisely in order to help stabilize some of these regions. But it also has some workarounds. I think the China-Pakistan economic corridor, a number of the projects that are there are not purely dependent on the security situation in Balochistan, for instance. A large number of these projects are also invested in other parts of the country too, and will help to kickstart the Pakistani economy in certain important aspects, particularly on the energy side, which is so important right now, even if some of these security problems persist.
Jia Zedong, looking at the broader security picture in the region, we have the United States, which is drawing down in Afghanistan right now. So does China fill in that gap? Does it begin to play a bigger role in maintaining security and stability in that part of the world?
Actually, China is playing an increasingly important role in Central Asia and South Asia on issues related to Afghanistan. And of course, no country alone can, solve the problem in Afghanistan. So there needs to be kind of concerted efforts by China, the United States, Russia, other Central Asian nations, Pakistan and India, and even countries in the Middle East. So it is a kind of a multilateral and joint efforts needed. And so I don't think China will fill any a gap or vacuum. But certainly China concerned because the stability and prosperity of Afghanistan in China's interests. And China is now investing in Afghanistan, have built infrastructure. Actually, that's kind of complementary. to the efforts by other countries for security in Afghanistan. So it's a joint effort, not kind of simply a feeling of any vacuum left by the U.S. drawing down from Afghanistan.
Right, Musharraf. For Pakistan, is this a bit of a balancing act, a very careful balancing act? I mean, we've just had the United States State Department approve $1 billion worth of arms sales to Pakistan. So for Islamabad, is this reaching out to China, reinforcing that relationship, but at the same time not jeopardizing the relationship with Washington?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think that's one way to characterize it, but I wouldn't see both of these things as somehow pitched against each other. In fact, I think that, you know, there is a great deal of harmony and sort of mutual benefit to China and the U.S. for Pakistan to have good, strong, mutually beneficial relations with both China and with the United States. You know, I would even extend that to other countries, including, as I said earlier, India. I think that China's long-term vision is not one that is going to derive strength and influence through conflict, but rather through mutual economic interdependence. So I think China's perfectly happy for Pakistan to have good relations with Washington, and I think for Pakistan it's absolutely vital that not only does it build relations with China and does the things it needs to do to take advantage of the opportunities that are emerging from this relationship for the Pakistani people, but also to continue to strengthen its relationship with Washington. The United States is going to continue to be a very, very powerful and influential country, not just you know, in generic terms, but very specifically to the South Asia region.